Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most bizarre and hilarious facts you've probably heard about France. You know the one? In France, it's illegal to name a pig Napoleon. It's everywhere. You'll see it in fun fact books, on internet forums, and even in trivia games. It sounds so perfectly French, doesn't it? A quirky law designed to protect the honor of their most famous emperor. But is it actually true? Well, grab your beret and a croissant because we're about to find out. The story usually goes something like this. After Napoleon Bonaparte's fall from power, the French government, in an effort to restore the monarchy's dignity and erase the Napoleonic legacy, passed a law making it a crime to name a pig after the deposed emperor. The idea was to prevent farmers and political opponents from mocking Napoleon by associating him with a, well, less than flattering animal. It's a great story, and it has a certain logic to it. After all, associating a political figure with a pig is a classic insult. Just think of George Orwell's novel, Animal Farm. The pig in charge, the tyrannical leader, is named, you guessed it, Napoleon. Many people believe that Orwell's book is the very reason for this law. They think the French were so incensed by this literary insult to their great emperor that they rushed to pass legislation against it. Animal Farm was published in 1945, so the timeline seems plausible, right? A post-World War II government fiercely proud and protective of its national heroes, taking a stand against this perceived slight. This version of the story adds a literary twist and makes it even more compelling. So, for years, this fact has been repeated without much question. It's just one of those things everyone knows. But here's the thing about historical facts that sound too good or too funny to be true. They often are. When you actually start digging into French legal archives, you run into a big problem. There is no trace of any such law. No loi nor whatever from 1815, 1945, or any other year that specifically says, "Thou shalt not name thy pig Napoleon." Legal historians in France have looked, journalists have looked, and curious citizens have looked. The consensus? It's a myth. So where did this myth come from? The most likely source is, in fact, George Orwell's Animal Farm. But not in the way you might think. The book wasn't the reason for the law. The book itself probably is the origin of the misunderstanding. Think about it. A world-famous book features a tyrannical pig named Napoleon. The book is set on a farm, a clear allegory for a political state. It's not a huge leap for someone to hear about the book, get the details a little mixed up, and then say something like, you know, in France, they're so sensitive about Napoleon that you're not even allowed to name a pig after him, just like in that book. From there, it's like a game of telephone. The story gets repeated, simplified, and eventually stated as an undisputed fact. The detail about Orwell's book might get dropped, and the timeline might get pushed back to the 19th century to make it sound more authentic. The internet, of course, acted as a massive amplifier for this myth. Once a fun fact gets on a popular website or goes viral, it takes on a life of its own, and debunking it becomes almost impossible. It is just more fun to believe in a quirky old French law than to accept the boring truth. Now, does this mean you can just go to France, buy a pig, and name it Napoleon without any consequences? Well, legally speaking, yes. There's no specific law against it. However, that doesn't mean it's a good idea. France does have very broad laws against defamation and causing public offense. Article 226(1) of the French Penal Code is about protecting the right to the respect of private life. And other laws protect the honor of public figures, even historical ones. For instance, there are laws against insulting the President of the Republic. While Napoleon is long gone, if you were to name a pig Emmanuel Macron and parade it through the streets of Paris, you would probably find yourself in legal trouble pretty quickly. The charge wouldn't be illegal pig naming, but something like public insult or defamation. So, could this apply to Napoleon? It's a gray area. An influential group, like a Napoleon Historical Society, could potentially argue that you are publicly insulting a significant historical figure and, by extension, offending the French nation and its heritage. They might try to bring a civil case against you. Would they win? It's hard to say. A judge would have to weigh freedom of speech against the protection of national symbols. It would be a fascinating court case, that's for sure. But the key point is, you wouldn't be breaking a specific pig-naming law. This whole myth is a perfect example of how stories evolve, and why it's always a good idea to be a little skeptical of amazing facts you hear. It combines a famous historical figure, a funny animal, and a national stereotype, the quirky French, into one irresistible package. The reality is often more mundane, but also more interesting. The truth isn't about a specific silly law, but about the complex interplay between culture, history, literature, and the legal system. So, in conclusion, the famous French law banning naming a pig Napoleon is, sadly, a complete work of fiction. It's a myth, likely spawned by a misunderstanding of George Orwell's Animal Farm and amplified by the internet. While you wouldn't be breaking a specific pig law, publicly mocking a revered national hero might still land you in hot water under broader defamation or public offense laws. It's a great reminder that just because a story is told over and over again doesn't make it true. What are some other crazy laws you've heard about? Drop them in the comments below and maybe we'll investigate them in a future video. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this little historical debunking, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the weird and wonderful corners of history. See you next time.